Hey everybody, now I'm back with another video to show you in a little bit more detail how to set up an effects loop and a feedback loop. Now if you watched my reel-to-reel tape delay video, you know that I demonstrated this before, but I didn't expect to get so many responses. Now some people had some questions about just exactly how the signal chain flowed and how to set up an effects loop, and some were wondering how to make a feedback loop, so I'm going to go back and show you exactly how I did that. Before I show you how to do the 1/4 inch reel-to-reel tape delay, I'm going to first show you how to create a really simple effects loop and feedback loop using two smaller electronic and digital delay units. So let's get started. Okay, what I have here is a 20 input 4-bus analog mixer. I know a lot of people probably have digital mixers these days. I'm using an analog just because that's what I have, and I'm not really sure how the digital mixers react to the feedback loop. So this is what we're going to be using today. My guitar is coming into channel 1, and I have my guitar running through a line 6 pod for the amp simulation. You notice that each channel has 2 auxiliary sends on it. And the auxiliary sends on each channel are so you can create a separate mix from the main mix down here. And you can use the auxiliary sends to create an effect send. A lot of people also use them to send various channels to monitors for live sound situations. But we're going to be using them for our effects loop and our feedback loop today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my patch cable and go out of aux send number 1. Then I'm going to go into the input on this fantastic, realistic electronic reverb. I'm going to come out of the reverb, and I'm going to go back into line in 8 here, which is a channel strip. Now normally you would go back into the aux return here, but I want to go back into a channel strip for 2 reasons. One is because I like having control of the effects EQ settings, and the other is because we're going to use this aux send to create the feedback loop. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my master aux 1 send to unity or 0. Okay, so after your effects loop is all set up, I'm going to bring up the aux send on the channel my guitar is coming in on. And then there's that fantastic Radio Shack reverb sound. You can even manipulate it a little bit by moving this delay. So I've moved the camera over here so you can see the auxiliary send on the channel that the reverb is coming back in on. Now if you remember, the auxiliary send sends the channel's output through the auxiliary send into the reverb and back into this channel. Now essentially what's going to happen is when I turn this up, that signal is going to go back into the reverb and create a feedback loop, because you're essentially sending the reverb into itself. You can get some cool effects to happen. Sometimes it's fun to manipulate both at the same time here. I know this is fun for all you guys that like to make noise music. Now this doesn't really create a good effect for guitar because the electronic reverb doesn't really have a long delay time. Okay, so let's try a different delay here. I've swapped out that awesome Radio Shack reverb with this DoD DFX 94 digital delay. And we'll see what happens when I increase the the aux send back into the delay. We'll see what kind of feedback we get. I think there's a threshold. There we go. Ooh. There we go. There's some interesting kind of stuff there. And I can increase the delay time for some interesting effects. Okay, so now that I've showed you those two other delays, we're finally going to do the reel-to-reel tape delay. And this is exactly how I set this up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of Effects Send 1, and I'm going to come to the back of the tape deck here. And this has two sets of RCA inputs and outputs. I'm going to go into the left input. Now I'm only running a mono configuration here. You could use both the left and the right for a true stereo analog delay, but I'm going to only use a mono configuration here. Then I'm going to take another patch cable. I'm going to go out the left RCA input, and then I'm going to come back into channel 8 line in on the board here. Okay, now I put this smaller camera here so you can get a close-up look as to which aux sends I'm using. I'm going to start the tape deck, recording, bring up my guitar. Now I'm going to bring up the aux send on the channel my guitar is coming in on. Now I'm not hearing any delay yet, and that's because the tape deck has a monitor setting. Right now it's set on source. So the signal is passing directly through the tape deck, and you're not hearing the playback of the heads. So to hear that, I'm going to switch from source to tape, and that's when we start to hear the delay. Okay, so now I got the basic delay, and I'm going to create the feedback loop. So if you remember, we're looking at the channel strip that the tape deck is coming back on. So if you remember, the aux send 1 is going to the record in of the tape deck. So this is going to create the feedback loop. So I hope that video made a little bit more sense about effect sends and feedback loops. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer them or find the answer for you.